Yeah, I got exposed to Slavic karaoke for the first time in the middle of the desert. So that was a new experience for me. I think that's what a Dubai sounds like. The first Emirati rock star. Can you imagine that? What you get is basically what you look for. As we were driving, you had the stretch from Abu Dhabi to Dubai, desert. Then you had the stretch from Jebel Ali onwards, desert.
So if replying to this question yes or no, you would say yes about Dubai is having a soul.
Absolutely. And I would say a very interesting one at the end of the day.
Personally hate that.
You need to peel beyond the layers, you need to peel beyond the surface. And a lot of us who were born and raised here have that eternal question of where is home? You don't just have one particular identity, it's a combination of identities, make your mark, show up, show up, show up. Our differences are meant to unite us and bring us together rather than divide us and keep us separate.
Hello, everybody. My name is Tamara Mitnitskaya, and welcome to my podcast, Dubai in Context. I am the owner of event agency Cultural Space, and today my guest is Adel Awad, a spoken word poet, community champion, and event curator. Welcome.
Thanks, Tamara.
And today we will speak about cultural scene of UAE. So actually, Adel is someone who was brought up in UAE, shaped by its cultural changes and streams. First question to you: how does it feel like to be brought up in UAE?
Well, one answer, it's definitely hot. It's a hot place for
Yeah.
sure. But what I can tell you is that growing up here has been quite interesting. Dubai is definitely a melting pot of cultures. UAE overall is a melting pot of cultures. You've got bits and pieces that people bring from different parts of the world. So you don't just have one particular identity, it's a combination of identities, that in turn sets the tone for culture in general.
More to say, Adel was born in Abu Dhabi. And for now, we know that Abu Dhabi and Dubai have a sort of a competition between bringing up cultural and art institution to the scene. Would be really interesting to hear from you. How did it feel like when first huge, important art institutions started to appear in Dubai and Abu Dhabi? Because we all know that for the last 20, 30 years, UAE changed rapidly. Now it's one of the first countries to be number one in the speed of development. So, for example, you have seen how the Museum of Future has appeared, and then Louvre in Abu Dhabi. So these are the magnificent architectural objects. So yeah, my question is, how did it feel? Did you feel proud yourself to be part of this country, to be growing up in this country?
So what I can tell you is it's not necessarily a competition. I don't think people label it as a sort of competition. I think it's more of collaboration where people build on each other. So growing up in Abu Dhabi had its own experience. Living here in Dubai has its own experience, and these two can be somewhat different. What I can say is that even though the country is quite young, there are a lot of initiatives that have popped up to support culture in general. You've got DCT in Abu Dhabi that's doing a lot of great things. You've got Dubai Culture in Dubai that does a lot of great things. And if you even look at the cultural calendar for the year, there's a lot of amazing things to look forward to compared to, say, 10, 20 years ago. So kudos to these organizations for putting together such amazing initiatives. And right now, you can also see that there's a lot of different pockets for culture, be it through art, music, poetry, comedy. There are a lot of different avenues that have popped up over the years. Growing up, it was definitely challenging. There was definitely a significant gap because you didn't have much of these avenues that existed, and it has evolved over time, and especially with the advent of social media, people are a lot more connected. So I would say that the last 10 to 15 years have bear witness to most of these initiatives that have come up in the scene.
Are you more aware of Dubai culture activities, or there is something similar going on in Abu Dhabi? Because I know that Abu Dhabi now is working a lot on the status of the cultural destination, global cultural destination. I lived in Dubai only. So I know about Dubai cultural authorities, what they are doing, what is this about, little bit about charge as well. Can I ask you to introduce a little bit Abu Dhabi art scene from your perspective? Abu Dhabi is more known more to be like an art and cultural destination now
Yeah.
rather than Dubai.
Yeah. So in Abu Dhabi, you've got a few different organizations that are at the forefront of the culture in Abu Dhabi. You've got Manartis, you've got the Abu Dhabi Cultural Foundation, and also institutions like New York University that have their own splendid calendar of events under the Arts Center. Shout out to Bill Bragin for putting together something very beautiful over the last few years, especially. Although the grassroots scene is a lot more healthier in Dubai, where you've got communities, especially a lot more open mics, a lot more things that are underground and catering to a wider demographic, more or less, you know. So in Abu Dhabi, I can say that the institutions are institutionalized, or the wider initiatives are bigger and a lot more sustainable in that sense. Whereas Dubai definitely has a lot more breadth in terms of grassroots and community initiatives. So these are the two key differences that I can see. Sustainability has been a big question because a lot of people have amazing ideas. They do put together a good calendar of events and things, but to sustain it in the long term, that's definitely been a challenge, especially for the expat population. So I would love to see that evolve into a more sustainable manner and have it sustain itself long term. You've also got a challenge of the fan base, you know, because in a place like the UAE, it's a very transient place. You know, the local population is limited, and then you've got the expat population that serves as more of a fan base, and they're quite transient at the end of the day, you know. So in order for an artist to maintain a steady fan base, this has been quite challenging. So you'll see a lot of amazing artists or even initiatives that would gain some level of traction, but it breaks my heart when they have to move on to
Can you
the next
maybe list them?
destination. I could name a few, like Freshly Ground Sounds was an amazing, open mic that ran for many years in Dubai, and even Go Play the World. And I do miss some of these avenues. And I know that they've done an amazing, a phenomenal job in developing something very beautiful for the city, you know. But then when they have to pack up their bags and leave, it totally breaks the heart of a lot of long-term residents like myself.
Yeah, that's the one specialty of Dubai. It's very dynamic city, and it is known as a hub in many senses, like as a business hub. And people they come in and then go. Expats who stay here for 5+ years, they already can call themselves like not locals, of course, but like someone who knows the city, because Dubai is very dynamic, as I said, and it changes quickly. If you are enjoying this conversation and you are someone who likes to think through the context, people, and ideas, I'm inviting you to my LinkedIn channel, and I will leave the link down. It's a free space where we talk about business, culture, and communities, and learning how to create a meaningful presence in Dubai. I also share a real life experience on relocation, finding your environment, and navigating through the city beyond your limits. Join the link below and be there where the real conversation starts. Благодарю, что слушаете наш подкаст. Буду признательна, если поддержите лайком и подпишитесь на нас. Здесь мы общаемся с реальными интересными людьми, релокантами, бизнесменами, творческими деятелями. И честно разговариваем о контексте этого города. What should an artist, like a singer, a poet, someone who has a creative profession, should do in terms of bringing up his art to the scene? We're not talking about social media, of course. It's a very strong tool nowadays. What are the opportunities UAE can provide if you know, maybe from experience of your friends or your own experience, because you already reached to that stage where you became a poet with an artistic experience of open mics and like showcasing your art.
Sure. So what I can tell you is that one word answer would be presence, you know. So you need to definitely mark your presence, be active within the local communities, within the local art initiatives, be it through open mics, be it through exhibitions, whether you're a painter, whether you're a singer, you need to definitely tap into the local ecosystem. And when I say local, I'm talking about the locally based ecosystem, you know? So find those avenues, find those channels, find those groups, find those communities and make your mark, you know? Show up, show up, show up, and try to develop your own audience, you know? There is an audience for everybody. This city is a beautiful melting pot of cultures, and I believe that there's something for everyone. All you gotta do is look for it. So definitely make your mark. And at the same time, some of the cultural bodies also have development programs that do support artists that are based here. You know? So look out for their events, look out for initiatives that do support these talent. Aside from that, I would say there's a degree of developing your presence even online so that you develop a following and you maintain that following. Once you have a decent fan base, you know, you can expect a certain footfall for your events or exhibitions, more or less. It really makes me happy when I see certain artists selling out venues. Like, for example, there's a comedian called Sean who goes by the name My Parents Are Divorced on Instagram. And recently he managed to sell out a venue like Dubai Opera. So shout out to artists who are actually pushing the envelope. I'm all for local talent that have been based here for a while and have managed to develop the audience organically speaking. So it's very much possible.
So the next question is about UAE cultural code. We all know that East and West very far from each other in all senses, in sense of culture as well. But good thing about it that nowadays people try to understand each other more. My question is, how do local communities are taking these changes? Like, how do they welcome Western art? How do they understand it or try to understand?
All right, I can say that a great degree of the culture is static, you know, which is local or locally based. And then you've got a degree of the culture which is transient, you know. So it pretty much visits, exhibits, performs, and then they move on and things. I love how the exchange has been happening quite organically and beautifully, you know. In any case, you need to respect the law of the land, wherever you are, whichever part of the world is. I believe Dubai does a beautiful job in terms of maintaining and preserving its own heritage and culture in beautiful ways, while also embracing, you know, bits and bobs of culture from those who are visiting, especially visiting artists, musicians, poets, in whatever form that may be. So there is a beautiful exchange. I believe our differences are meant to unite us and bring us together rather than divide us and keep us separate. So there has been a lot of change in terms of the reception or perception of culture from abroad. So UAE has been inviting, and Dubai is definitely a beautiful oasis of tolerance that has embraced, you know, its visitors, people who have come together for maybe a better life, a better prospect, etc. So there's a beautiful lesson in terms of tolerance and how Dubai has been open enough to allow people to come and respectfully, you know, display what talents, what they would like to bring to the city and things. At the same time, I must say that you need to respect the law of the land, regardless of where you are. So
Yeah, for sure.
definitely,
Yes.
there is a certain degree of respect and modesty that you have to maintain. So I believe Dubai has been able to maintain that level of class. I believe there's a lot more that you can learn from our differences. Our differences are meant to unite us and bring us together rather than divide us and keep us separated, you know. There is definitely more beauty. There's a whole palette of different cultures that come together in this melting pot. For instance, just yesterday, I was in the desert with a few friends and they were singing Slavic songs, you know. So I got
Slavic.
exposed. Yeah, I got exposed to Slavic karaoke for the first time in the middle of the desert. So that was a new experience for me. And then 1 hour later, I'm at a friend's birthday party and it was a Mexican fiesta, you know? So only in Dubai, I believe, you can experience such a huge breadth in terms of the flavors, in terms of the different genres or styles, you know.
Yeah, it feels a little bit unreal to be true. Like listening to Slavic songs in the desert. Maybe you can tell what were the singers or artists, or you don't remember.
I just know one. Zemfira is
Oh,
one of my
yes.
all-time
She's very
favorites.
popular, of
You can
course.
never
She's
go
like an
wrong.
icon. Speaking about international culture, do children study this subject at school? I mean, were they studying, better say, when you were growing up at schools? How popular was it? Or it was just like an additional subject and
Right. So in school, I was a bit naughty. So I wasn't that great in terms of academics and things. So I was the cultural
chilled?
secretary
Yeah.
of the school. So I managed to sneak out and, take my piano, keyboard instruments and things and, be busy with the school band and things. So yes, we did have some form of activity, although it wasn't what we needed growing up. I can say that it could have definitely been better, but now that has definitely changed. I can see that there are a lot more music institutions, there are a lot more avenues that support students and kids in general.
Yeah, one remark. Steinway recently started their own piano competition.
Oh wow!
Yes,
Okay,
for young Emirati talents. I might
nice.
be wrong, might be
All
not
right,
correct, but the fact that they started this competition for,
excellent.
yeah, it's true.
Excellent. I mean, this is what we would like to hear.
Yeah, Steinway in Dubai.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I
No,
interrupted
it's
you.
no, that's all right. Yeah, that's it. I believe there's a lot more avenues for support for students in general nowadays.
I ask this question because in Russia, for example, from my experience, we were not introduced to Eastern culture like little bit, maybe through historical lessons more even than from cultural. Let's go back to basics.
All
Like,
right.
what are the fundament of, for example, can you list poets or writers or artists who make the scene? Like, I want to say a local scene, but I'm not sure if it's correct to say like this.
Absolutely. I mean, locally based, local scene is
Yes.
basically locally based, the artists, the movers and shakers of the city, of the country. And there's definitely a lot to listen. People have a misconception that, hey, you don't really have local talent. No, we do have local talent. You need to look for it. So, definitely within the music scene, you've got an amazing Emirati artist called Bafuri. Hamid Bafuri, who's a friend of mine. His band's name is Ash and Runway, the first Emirati rock star. Can you imagine that? Guy in a kundura with a guitar, bam. So, yes, we've got that
Cool.
in the scene over here as well. There are a few of my other favorites. One of them is Noon, which is an amazing band. They do infuse jazz with Oriental oud, which is a beautiful mix. And when people ask for what the Dubai sound sounds like, I think that's what a Dubai sound sounds like. It's the infusion of different cultures. So that's Noon. I mean, it's just like the product, but they're not related. Maybe the e-commerce company could endorse or sponsor them someday. But that's Noon, an amazing band that's based out of Dubai. Within poetry, definitely I've got people like myself. Shout out to Jason Zane, who's been a long-term poet, slam champion as well. Danabel Gutierrez, good friend of mine, who has been behind a lot of amazing, beautiful poetry initiatives. Alicia Knowles, co-founder of Just Entertainment, which also curates beautiful poetry events. And people like Hakam, for example, who hosts open mics in different venues across the city. Even if you look at artists, I mean, there's plenty of both local and expat artists and painters who are featured in many different exhibitions that I can see, and they've become regulars as well. And so all you need to do is keep your eyes open, find these communities, these initiatives and events, and you'll be exposed to a beautiful lineup of artists who are locally based.
Thank you for staying with us. I would be really grateful if you would support our podcast with your likes and subscriptions. Here we talk to interesting business people, art people who build their lives here, like self-made and expats. If you're interested in a real conversation about Dubai context, you are welcome to stay. You know about Art Jameel Center, correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah, now it is on reconstruction, right?
I believe so. All
Yeah,
right.
it was because I visited it maybe a couple of years back, and I remember it was a guest house for artists. They were doing exhibitions. Art Jameel Center is a governmental center under Dubai Art and Culture Authorities, correct?
I believe so.
Yeah, you just
Okay.
prove me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you know better. And I remember that they had a very interesting initiative by hosting artists,
Okay.
global artists.
All right.
So artists could apply through their website, showcase their works,
Yep.
and then if Art Jamil Center approved them, they later on invited them to stay for 3 months or something and create within their like for let's say Dubai heritage.
So that's exactly what I'm talking about in terms of opportunities for residencies for artists. So there's a lot more that's come up, especially in the last few years, and this is highly important to both develop the locally based talent as well as attract talent from abroad, that can be developed here as well.
And what do you think? Why people romanticize Dubai so much?
Very interesting. All right. Like I may have mentioned earlier, Dubai is definitely an attractive, super attractive city for people who are looking for a better life. So they do come here for better prospects. And at the same time, there's so much that the city has to offer. There is a notion that, there's a one size fits all kind of template for Dubai, and I don't think that's the case. What you get is basically what you look for. There's something for everybody. So be it through culture, be it through better prospects, or be it through business, or be it through, even lifestyle experiences. There is something for everyone at the end of the day, which makes the city a lot more appealing and attractive. And even beyond that, the identity of the city is also ever evolving. So I don't think any 2 years have been the same for a place like Dubai. As a kid, my dad would drive us from Abu Dhabi to Sharjah, and obviously we had to pass through Dubai. We didn't have those multiple highways. It was just Sheikh Zayed Road all the way through. So as we were driving, you had the stretch from Abu Dhabi to Dubai, desert. Then you had the stretch from Jebel Ali onwards, desert. Everything that you regard as JBR Marina, Barsha Heights, Internet City, desert. And eventually you see the World Trade Center as this tiny little dot in the horizon. It was visible from miles away. It would slowly zoom in. And finally, when you reach that roundabout of Trade Center, that's when welcome to Dubai. So that's where the city basically began.
Which year was
So
that?
I would say, wow, 25 years ago. So 1995, 1997, in the 90s, definitely. So the city has evolved in so many different ways. It's not just geographically. It's even the social aspect. You're looking also at the cultural aspect. So it's continuously ever evolving. It doesn't just have one particular identity. It's multifaceted. There's so many different flavors to explore.
So, if replying to this question yes or no, you would say yes about Dubai's having a soul.
Absolutely. And I would say a very interesting one at the end of the day.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I must also add that when I say people have just one notion of Dubai, most likely that identity is what's showcased on social media, more or less. They think that Dubai is just about parties or even.
Yeah, I personally hate that. I
Yeah,
want to
so
destroy this
yeah.
image.
So if you think that's all that is, no, you've been mistaken. You need to peel beyond the layers. You need to peel beyond the surface. You need to have a genuine sense of curiosity. So there's a lot that's happening within the cultural space, within the F&B space, within many different pockets, be it music, arts, poetry, etc. All you need to do is look for it.
Yeah, because I believe for people it's very natural to rethink the reality where they live in, and obviously Dubai is a very competitive and challenging city. And
Sure.
without this self-reflection and like general social reflection, understanding where am I, what am I doing, why am I here? Because in Dubai, it's also known that no matter how much you earn, someone would be more like richer than you. We are not robots in the end of the day. We need some rest, some mind rest. This is why I believe Dubai interesting in this way, because the rhythm of the city, the dynamics of the city shapes its cultural scene. Coming back to your words, that you need to little bit filter what's on the surface, right?
Yeah, you need to look beyond the noise, So
Yeah.
you need to go beyond the noise. There are a lot of beautiful stories that are being interwoven in this city, So have conversations, be curious, be genuinely honest and open. I believe in
Correct.
authenticity over anything at the end of the day, Don't believe everything that you see on social media. You need to get out there and look for yourself and have a genuine sense of curiosity when it comes to people and the communities around you.
True, and I believe it's not only in Dubai; it's everywhere in the world, because negative image is very easy to pick up. It's very easy to discuss, right? You don't need to turn on your critical thinking for a
Yep.
while.
The message of tolerance is ever more so important. And you can see beautiful examples of tolerance, especially in our current times with what's happening around the world, all the global conflicts and things like that. In a place like Dubai, it has been open enough to embrace different cultures where they coexist peacefully. That's definitely a good example that a lot of nations should take note of.
We will touch little bit this topic, religion, like
Yeah.
little bit. UAE is a Muslim country, and I want to share my personal experience. We live with my son in GLT, and there was an Indian holiday, like with colors.
Holi, the Festival of Colors,
Yes.
yeah. Yep.
It's like a big holiday
Yep.
for Indian community. People were very open and friendly. Like my son Jacob, he just joined them, not being a Hindu.
Yeah.
And it was really fun. Like I believe this is a great example of tolerance and
What a beautiful opportunity, because how often would you have so many different cultures coming together? I would go for a potluck and you've got kunafa and you've got pierogies on the same table, So how often does that happen? So it's definitely a beautiful mix of different cultures coming together and celebrating so many different flavors at the same table.
I think it's a big part of the Dubai and UAE soul. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Adel. So, what kind of art, from your feeling and experience, can be born in Emirates only?
Ooh, you're putting me on the spot here right now, So, what kind of art can be born in the Emirates? Well, personally speaking, a lot of my pieces resonate with home, the question of home, and a lot of us who were born and raised here have that eternal question of where is home. We're trying to find our identity, and we often question it. Is it here or is it somewhere else? Many different answers, many different beautiful poems that have come out through it. But I can easily say that the definition of home has evolved over time, and it's not just a physical space, but it can also be around you. It can also be these conversations. So you're not just belonging to place, but you also belong to certain moments, and that's how we find meaning. So that's definitely an example of what kind of art can be developed.
Where can we see these examples of this art?
So there are two ways to do it. One, where you would find the artists and follow their pages, their social media pages, and other would be to follow communities or groups and their initiatives. Few communities that I can name: one would be Just Entertainment, which features their own calendar of events and open mics. Pause Club has a monthly open mic catering to both poetry and music. There's also Tanya's Tea House that does an open mic, more recently started. Once you do attend some of these events, you get introduced to artists and you can follow their pages, follow what they're putting out and things.
Yeah, so events is the best way to learn about.
Exactly. Try showing up to the events, and obviously you'll be introduced to a lot of beautiful artists. Basically connect with them. Very interesting characters and personalities for sure. We don't bite. So do come and check it out.
From my experience, I attended a lot of exhibitions and presentations, and people, artists are very open in communication. They are open to dialogue. They like to tell about their arts,
Exactly.
what's the idea behind.
Yeah.
And it is very important because be in this dialogue with this artist, because otherwise
Absolutely.
this is the purpose of art.
Absolutely. And I also love how community develops organically. So within Al Circle, for example, Al Circle Avenue, you've got Cave, and they do an open mic every month. But regardless of whether there's an open mic or not, some of the artists or some of the regulars do hang out there. We grab a coffee, we chit chat, and we share those stories. And that in turn becomes the culture. So that's how you develop culture organically speaking. Book Hero, which is a beautiful cafe in Umsukim, on Kite Beach. They do something called Descarga Nights, where they invite musicians to come together and jam. It's very spontaneous. You don't need to rehearse or anything. I like that these little pockets exist and are in turn helping to develop a locally based ecosystem for culture, and it's quite beautiful. So it's very important for people to show up, to support, and try to propel these movements moving forward.
Absolutely. I would love to add Al Safa Art and Design Library to that list.
Absolutely.
A great place. Let's slightly move to the wrapping up. I would love you to recite one of your favorite poems.
Sure. All right. So I'll go with one of my all-time favorites, and it definitely resonates with a lot of things that we spoke about. Showcases the experience of growing up in a place like the UAE.
Yeah, thank you.
So this one's called Excess Baggage. Have you ever taken the metro?
Yes, of course.
You've taken the metro.
Of course.
All right. So just imagine yourself being on the train platform, like at the station, basically.
Yeah.
All right. If life were a rail track, I'm at a train station, and I sit here on a bench waiting. One by one, I've seen them come and go countless times, nomads of a transient world, different pages in my book. And as each train stops, they get off, weary and tired, carrying their excess baggage, and often with the scars and bruises of a journey so hard visible in their faces. And if they choose to find me, then I'll pour my heart in a cup and present it as a present for the present, because the past may have been too harsh, so I teach them to let it go and let them know that someone out here cares way more than they can ever care, while we sit together exchanging our stories and adventures, sharing our warmth, the sights of our souls, tales of wonder, of wandering around the world. Oh, how much I've traveled by just sitting here at this bench. Wiser we become through trial and error, a few laughs, a few tears, a few moments worthy of reminiscence. I have witnessed them all, and I must tell you that love, true love, has no color, language, or accent. It will find its way and shine right through, and in its purest form will solely intend to strengthen our spirits, and the strongest shall be those who have loved not once, but endlessly, sincerely, completely. As the next train's horn blares in the vicinity, we look at each other, realizing that our time is over, which may explain why I've become so bad at hellos and so good at goodbyes. It's time to let go once again. It's time to forget the name, a final embrace. And they all have left the same way, onto a different train, back on their journey, onto a brand new page with a lighter heart, renewed spirit, as wiser souls, while I still sit here, surrounded by the excess baggage they all have left behind.
Wow.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was Adel Awad, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Tamara. This has been an absolute pleasure, and Godspeed to you.
Thank you.